how you want these next 29 games to look. What is successful the rest of the way? Here's slates on the roast.
Now that's funny.
Why is it not playing, Grandy? Grandy's got his hands up in the air like Iguodala.
Not so smiley now, are you, Grandy?
It. It's not. We're not hearing it. What's going on, Grandy?
I'll do it from my end.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I guess that kind of depends on who you ask, right? If you're just talking to like Steph or Draymond or, Steve Kerr, certainly Klay Thompson at this point, they're not going to be like, oh, one round and out and we'll feel fine, right? They're still like having this faint idea of a title run, especially at the stage they are in their career and life. If you were asking, me, maybe a neutral observer or even, people within the front office, I think there's, how does the youth look at the end of the season? Is Jonathan Kuminga still on this, rapid upward trajectory? Does he get playoff experience? Sure, maybe they go deep into the second round and get eliminated, but maybe coming off that series, you're like, geez, Kuminga is like a top two, top three type player.
Okay, so the engaged Bonte wanted to follow up right there. I like his answer for me. It encapsulates how complex this answer is. He brings up the second round. You kind of insinuated it's just a round. Like, just get into the playoffs, have a really good showing, if you will. This is new ground for us. The idea of like, hey,
we won a couple of games.
Have a good showing.
Right.
Like, I don't know. And Anthony's going into the depth of, well, no, it's kind of like, how are you set up for next year? And that's how I would answer the question. There is no defined way to answer the question, but I am still a firm believer in the remainder of Steph Curry's career, and I still believe that he is every bit of an NBA one as you could be. Therefore, to me, the window's not closed. I know people think the window's closed because they're thinking about what the window used to look like. The window evolves. The Steph Curry era, to me, is not over yet. It's about what is he surrounded with. I want, at the end of this year, there to be a clear picture of what that can and should be. Is there a path to make it so? So in other words, is Kuminga this, and is Podziemski that, and you clear Chris Paul, and what do you do with Klay?
Right.
And is there a way to then sort of bolster that group? I still think Steph and Draymond are fine. Is there a way to bolster that group that puts them back in position? So it's not a definable answer, but I want that to have both a picture and a path.
Right.
When this whole thing is over.
And I think that you will, no matter how it goes. If you go 10-19, or if you go 19-10, if you go 29-0, or anywhere in between any of those scenarios, you're going to know what you need to know. And it goes beyond just those players. I think it also goes to Andrew Wiggins. What are you going to do with Andrew Wiggins for the next 3 years? Are you sold that he can be two-way Wiggs and be an impactful member of a good team? Or do you start to play him into a spot where maybe he gets dealt in the offseason? I think the Podziemski and the Kuminga parts of it, those have already been solved. Those guys are here. They're rotational pieces, no matter who else is around them. Steph and Draymond, I think the same thing is in place. Now, Moody and GP2, I think those are interesting questions as far as can they help you? And Kevon Looney, who has only a partial guarantee for next year. I do think there are other questions on the roster outside of the two youngsters who I'm pretty certain are going to be back and be a part of the rotation.
Oh, I have no doubt that they're going to be back. You said something interesting there I want to follow up on, and then we'll go to the phones at 888-957-9570. You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Upgrade your savings dividend. Opened a First NorCal First Class Money Market today. You said Kuminga and Podziemski. That's already been answered. They're rotational pieces.
Right.
I would sort of respond to that by saying, aren't you looking for Kuminga to be more than that? And I think that's a big question. A big part of the question is when you get to the end of the year, because you're right, Kuminga's not They don't want him to go anywhere.
Right.
And he's popped, and this is very interesting, and he's athletic and talented, and he's all the things you were hoping that he would develop into being. So is he a rotational piece, or does he get some focus? In other words, are we starting to plan around him? Is this a starter who we're thinking, let's get our 22 points a night from you, and Steph's going to give us our 28 points a night, so there's 50, and then let's go from there. Like, is Kuminga the 2 and a centerpiece, not a rotational piece, a centerpiece?
Yeah, I think you want him to be your 3 or your 4 if you're a really good team. If you're a team that fancies itself as being championship caliber, I don't think that Kuminga is ready to be your second best player. And if he's your second best player, you're probably not a championship team.
Second best scorer?
Yeah, I don't think that
that's not necessarily second best player.
Right. Second best scorer, I still think you need another guy to score that much. And I don't know if you can look at Kuminga and say, yeah, 22 a night next year. That's a gigantic leap to me. I think he's made
kind of close
steady progress.
That's what he's been doing for the last month and a half.
Right.
No?
Last month and a half, he's been up there, but that's, you're asking him to do that over the course of a whole season. And I guess it's a little skewed because this team scores a ton of points, and defensively, Kuminga is still learning in many ways, but I'm more interested in the other players on the roster and how they're going to fit in. Because I think Kuminga, he's going to be a starter. And yes, when I say rotational piece, I mean, he's one of the core guys on your team. And so is Podziemski. And so is Steph. And so is Draymond. Outside of that, you've got questions about just about everybody, different questions based on the player.
He averaged 20 and a half in January.
Okay.
19 in February.
Good. So far, yeah.
Put the calendar 2024 year together, you're looking at someone who's averaged about 20 a night.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's crazy.
No.
It's not crazy to ask him to be a 20-plus point per game guy next year, right? Especially if, like, you come in and like, yeah, you're getting your 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You're getting your 30 minutes. You're going to be a big part of our plan. I think that, again, I'm not disagreeing with you. In an ideal world, sure, he is your third. I do think that's ideal. But I think you want to come out of this year with the knowledge that that's someone we can look to every night for a consistent sort of like we feel it type of a performance night in and night out. That's what you want Jonathan Kuminga to be at the end of this year.
Yeah, and I think you've seen, like you cited over the last couple of months, he's become that. So for me, there's no real mystery as to whether or not he can be that player going into next year. I'm more interested in Klay Thompson, and can he come back and fit in this new role that it seems like he is being asked to play, which is not necessarily a starter, not necessarily your second leading scorer anymore. Can Klay come back and do that? Will he want to play for that amount of money? What do you do with GP2? What do you do with Looney, whose deal is only partly guaranteed for next year? Is Wiggins a guy who you still want to have a part of your rotation? For me, there are many other questions. The Kuminga question to me has mostly been answered. The way he's played the last couple of months, he's a dude.
Yeah. I think even the way you're talking this out sort of crystallizes what I would like to see crystallized.
Over the next 29, yeah.
Well, we got to figure out what your plan is. Like, you've got too many people who you're like, well, we could look to him, and we could look to him, and we could look to him. All right, well, fine. So let's declare. Who are you looking to? And maybe even though we've moved out of this whole Wiggins and Kuminga can't play together thing, we've moved out of it momentarily, but I don't know that we've moved out of that long term. I really don't. You know, if you are going to re-sign Klay, and Klay's going to want to do his thing, and you're going to want Podziemski to grow, and Steph is Steph. So, all right, now are you going to be like Wiggins? You can be your 18-point per night guy, and Kuminga, you could be your 20. There's not room. There isn't room. You kind of need to declare, and right now, this is who the Warriors have been all year. It's different every night. Now you're starting. Now you're finishing. Now you're scoring 20. Now you're scoring 20. Now you're off the bench scoring 35. It's kind of haphazard and all over the place, which Steve would come on here and say is a great problem to have, but sometimes that doesn't change that it is still a problem. Like, I don't think that that's what you want next year to look like. Well, we got a different closing five every night.
Right.
They were never good when they had that.
In different starting fives.
Yeah.
And for me, the most interesting piece of that is the Wiggins question, because when he was at his absolute best with the Warriors, you won a championship. And since then, he's been more bad than good, yet I don't know what the market would be to trade him in the offseason. He's got 3 more years in his deal.
Playing better.
He is playing better. And maybe Draymond's the guy who unlocks him and Kuminga playing together. But you make a good point about minutes and shots and availability. You start to run out of all that.
The Warriors have Steph. And then after that, they kind of start falling into in a form, follow me here, there's a little bit of what everybody's angry about with the Giants.
Knew you were going to go there.
It is.
No, you're not wrong.
It's like, well, who are we counting on today? Oh,
Who's
he's
pitching?
not even in the lineup.
Exactly.
Right, who's pitching? Wait, I went to the bathroom. Did you take him out? Wait, you pinch hit for him in the third? Like, there's a little bit of that, and I don't think that works in sports. You want to count on something.
Right.
The Warriors have it way better because they have a 1. But they got a bunch of guys capable of being 2s and 3s, but it's different every night. And I think coaches sometimes talk about that like it's a good thing, and it's not always a good thing.
Well, it's a good thing when you've got 3 or 4 or 5 guys all playing well at the same time, and they're all fighting to see who the 2 is. But unfortunately for this team, too often this year, it's been, well, God, Clay is clanking. Wiggins is non-existent. Draymond punched another person, so he can't play. And now you're left with, well, is it going to be a Gee game? Are we going with Quinones?
Well,
what are we doing here for players 8, 9, and 10?
And then when they all start playing well, though, then
it's a different problem, yeah.
Then they all want to be the 2. And now you got 4 guys who are like, I'm the 2. I'm going to call shams if you don't put me in the game. It's not easy. Jonathan in the city. Hey, Jonathan, you're on with Willard and Dibs. What's up?
Hey, how's it going, guys? I just want to say, man, for me, their season rests on 2 players. Klay Thompson, is he going to embrace his new role and be the best 6th man he could ever be? Is Andrew Wiggins going to be aggressive for the most part, more often than not? If they could do that, if they can limit their turnovers to about half of what their average used to be, because they don't have that margin for error anymore, and if they could group rebound, we're ready to know they got a strong bench. And a lot of their young guys, especially Podziemski, they're ready to play now. So if they could do that, I give them a better than puncher's chance heading to the playoffs. Because we all saw what happened in 2022, and it's just a year and a half away. But it's a lot of things that needs to fall in their favor. But hey, we're Warriors fans, and we're going to be watching no matter what. Go Warriors!
Yeah, Jonathan, I think that's well said. Like, this is going to sound all campy and stupid, but I just want to go to the playoffs and have a good time. I'm really, and yes, there will be intensity. I will make popcorn. We'll do all of that, but I'm not harboring this idea of a championship being the measuring stick. I want it to last as long as it can last. I want them to go as far as they can go, but I do have in the back of my mind, and when it's over, what are you left with? What information are you left with? And is there a path to a plan? Like some of these guys, it's funny. They start playing well, and you're like, well, that's actually not a good thing. Like, think about it now. What if Klay Thompson does unload a bunch of 30-point games from here on out?
Well, then he's going to play for someone else next year.
Yeah, don't act like you're all like, well, then yay. No, don't do that. You've been calling him Klay Thompson for 6 months. I see it every time you put it on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
So don't tell me that you want him to play well, because if he does, then the Warriors are going to have to give him $30 million a year,
and he won't stay because they can't afford to give him $30 million a year. But if he plays poorly and he continues to shoot erratically, then you don't want him either. And I mean,
but maybe you can get him for $15 million.
Exactly. So that's why it's interesting for me over the last 29 about Klay as the 6th man. If he continues to come off the bench, and I know that the plan is for him to do that again tonight.
For now, yeah.
Maybe that's the plan going forward. And if he starts to thrive in that role, then what do you do about Klay for next year?
There are so many guys, and this to me is what the next 29 games are about. Sure, and we've said it all year. There's the game, and who wins, that's fun. But the game within the game, Every individual, what they do, how that sets them up, what does that mean for next year? Kuminga, Clay, Wiggins, Pajemski. I mean, even Draymond to a certain degree. Moody, GP2. There's pretty much only two people I already know what the hell's going on. Steph Curry and Chris Paul. One of them's the one, and the other one's gone.
Yeah.
That's it.